Welcome back. Now, Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi recently revealed his executive council signaling the start of the 7th administration of the provincial government. Participating parties in the Government of Provincial Unity will focus their attention on plans for the province, but so will those who occupy the opposition benches. And to help us unpack that, we're joined by Ayanda Allie, Bosa member of the Provincial Legislature in Gauteng, and Emma Moore from ActionSA, who's also a member of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature. A very warm welcome to both of you ladies. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm quite excited to have this chat, and before we get to the serious stuff, I wanted to find out from you both, because you're kind of the new kids on the block, what was it like when you got to the legislature and there was some sort of an orientation, I guess? You get the lay of the land, the canteen is here, the bathroom is there, here's your office. Just take us through those first few days.
I think I'm going to jump right in there before Emma does. It was such an exciting time for us, Masa, because elections come with them great uncertainty. You don't know how your party is going to fare. You hope for the best, but there is a little bit of trepidation as well, worried about whether or not you'll be given an opportunity to make an impact provincially or even nationally. So when you find out that your party has that opportunity to prove to South Africans what can be done, I think all of us were exceedingly excited, going there, meeting new members, and putting aside some of your differences that you had on the campaign trail to say now ours is to serve was quite interesting. And we come at a very peculiar time. I think Emma can also agree. We come at a very, very difficult time where we now have a government of provincial unity, where the definition of opposition is not as clear-cut as it was before. So all of us, even the seasoned members of the provincial legislature, are experiencing many firsts in this administration.
And for you, Emma, I'm assuming you could echo the same, because ActionSA does have a footprint locally, but this is your first time entering the provincial and national for.
Exactly. So it was exciting, but you know, for me, the biggest challenge is you hear now, what is it that you're going to do to make a difference? Because it's all exciting to be there, getting the salary, being called an honorable member and all that. But the work at hand, really, when I think about it, I get a bit stressed. And, you know, for me, it's all about what is it that we are there, all of us, myself included, to do. Are we going to impact the lives of Joburg people, the lives of Tshwane people, the lives of Gauteng people, or are we just there because we want to be called honorable members? There is a lot at stake right now. It's exciting, but there is a lot of work that we need to sit down and get started. And I'm a bit worried because we're sort of late in Gauteng province. To be honest, we haven't even started sitting in committees. We haven't even chosen our own chairpersons of committees. And there is a lot happening right now in terms of service deliveries, the lacks of this. You've seen transport issues, NGOs not paid on time and all that. So basically it's exciting, but also the work at hand, it's a lot, and we need to be ready to actually deliver on the promises that we made just before elections.
And you know, Emma, Ayanda was just saying now that you're coming in at a very peculiar time. There's now a government of provincial unity. The definition of opposition is not so clear as well. What would you say your role will be as the opposition? Because ActionSA and Build One South Africa are not part of that government of national unity.
As ActionSA, we want to be a constructive opposition. We want to make sure that we hold the executive to account. We want to make sure that all what we're supposed to be doing in legislature, the MECs, education, social development, health. I mean, if you go to any hospital right now, government hospital, level 3, level 2, it's hazard. If you go to Home Affairs, it's the same. There's issues, there's long queues. It's chaotic in Gauteng right now. It's scary in Gauteng right now. People see Gauteng as the place of gold, place of opportunities and all of that. So there is a lot that we need to do. And with this distinct feature of a government of provincial unity, or the coalition, if you want to call it that, I am not sure if we're really ready to deliver to the masses. So yes, we come at a peculiar time. It's very, very scary as to whether we will be able to achieve, or are we going to be, you know, taking positions, taking power talking authority without actually delivering to the masses. So I hope that all of us are ready. We as ActionSA want to be constructive. We'll hold them accountable. We will be doing oversight strictly to make sure that everything that needs to happen happens. So, for instance, in the near future, we will be also visiting the Department of Social Development. We made appointments with them. They disappointed us so many times, but I understand at the time there was no MEC for social development because there were issues on the ground that needed to be redressed, but we could not because we wanted to talk to the person who we can actually hold accountable and address those issues. But there was no one. So I'm hoping that very, very quickly we do sit, choose the chairpersons, know which committees we're serving, and we start rolling rolling in action, basically, to deliver everything that needs to be delivered to our people.
You know what's quite interesting? We were watching what was going on in Gauteng when we were the last province to have our provincial cabinet announced, even after nationally, So that does put us at a bit of a back foot if you're saying that, these committee meetings haven't even started yet. But for you, Ayanda, I know that you also have already hit the ground running, even though, there hasn't been much of a framework to work with, and you do have some key priorities. I read a letter that you wrote to the Joburg Mayor, Kabelo Kwamanda. Just tell us a bit about some of your priorities and that letter.
Yeah. I think I'd like to echo the sentiments of the honourable member there, that we do find ourselves with our hands tied at times. I would have loved to have fleshed out some of the issues in that letter with the portfolio committee that looks into cooperative governance. But in the absence of that committee, one took it upon themselves to say, let's go on the ground, even if it's just as a Bosa member or a resident of Johannesburg, to speak with great alarm, to say, how can you increase the surcharge for prepaid electricity usage by 230 Rand, including VAT, right? In a time when people are having to pay for private healthcare, private transport, private education, private security, because there's such a huge gap in the public services that are supposed to be providing such. And then you have on top of that normal tariff increases that you get every year that are way above inflation. So you have all the increases that even the head of state spoke about in the opening of Parliament, where he spoke about the cost of living being exorbitant. In the midst of all of that, you have this surcharge that is placed on the hands of your prepaid users who are mixed with all sorts of things that they need to pay for. And there's been no thorough consultation. It's been absolutely scant and wanting. Number two, the poor will not be protected from this because vast majority of them are not part of that indigent registry. And the third point, which is equally as important, is that it just is unaffordable and will leave people having to wonder, do we buy food or electricity, which are both necessary for you to live well in a dignified life. And so we've said, what can we do? One of the mandates of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature is to ensure public participation. So we took it to social media, we took it to the street, we said, let's get people involved, let's let people for themselves come to the knowledge of what's happening, let's blow the whistle and make sure that we play our part, even if it's outside the confines of the legislature, in the absence of those committees that my colleague had spoken about.
I mean, you also spent your 67 minutes highlighting this as well. Tell us about standing out there at the COJ.
Absolutely. And that for me was a personal conviction more than anything, because in the midst of everything that's going on, like my colleague said, it's easy to just say, well, I'm okay, I have employment and my children are fed and covered, but what about those who aren't okay? You know, the work that the likes of your Dr. Tracy Ledger have done through Parry, the work that the likes of your Ms. Fish, who is in Joburg, can, and so many other people, Chris Yelland, who write extremely well and vast about how the poorest of the poor are suffering. So I had to say for myself, what will I do? I will stand there, even as an individual, as a lone ranger, as you will, reminded of the likes of your Rosa Parks, who decided to sit on the bus, or your Dr. Martin Luther King, who had no violence as part of their theme in protesting. What are we going to do? And for me personally, it was important to stand even as an individual. I know that there are many petitions doing the round, and I encourage people to sign those petitions. I know that there are many marches that are being planned. I believe one is next week as well. I will be joining that march as well. But whatever we can do as individuals, we must do. And I think that's an important part, that public participation in governance is something that we will be focusing strongly on as Build One South Africa.
There's some pertinent questions that you made to the mayor as well in that letter, asking about the number of registered indigent household as well, asking about, of course, as well, the National Treasury, the grant from National Treasury as well. Have you gotten any answers?
Not yet. So that letter was sent on the 9th of July. The spokesperson did acknowledge receipt and did indicate that indeed the Chief of Staff will process the letter and respond to us soonest. And I think it's important to make a public declaration now on live television to say, you need to answer those questions. We do not want to go with speculation, but we do understand that 950,000 households in Johannesburg are known to be indigent as per Stats SA. And if that is the case, we understand that only between 11,000 and 30,000 people are registered in terms of households in Johannesburg. So that's a huge discrepancy. If only, let's say, hypothetically, 50,000 households are registered on that indigent list, it leaves another 900,000 households that are having to pay this 230 Rand surcharge. Now, that is absolutely unfair. That is something that we cannot allow to happen. And I'm glad even the President mentioned it in opening of Parliament to say municipalities must ensure that they implement thoroughly and properly all legislation that has to do with those who are indigent. And I think as members, these are some of the issues we're going to be grappling with. And as soon as those committees are formed, we cannot wait as Build One South Africa to advocate not only for those who are the poorest of the poor, but for all South Africans, and in particular, in my case, all those in Gauteng, that the cost of living, government has to do something about that. And of course, our mandate to put a job in every home. We can't wait to roll that out as soon as we sit.
Well, I want to continue this conversation, so we will take a short break and we'll be back with Ayanda Allie, who is a member of the Provincial Legislature in Gauteng from Build One South Africa, as well as Emma Moore from ActionSA, so do stay with us. Welcome back. We're still in conversation with members of the Provincial Legislature in Gauteng, Emma Moore from ActionSA, and Build One South Africa's Ayanda Allie. Now, before the break, we're talking to you both about how the business of the day actually hasn't kicked off yet and the effect that that may have on residents as well. And for you, Emma, you were saying that, look, we can't even provide a proper oversight role at this point. We don't know which committees we're going to be in at this point. If you could just explain to us, then what effect does that have on residents of the province?
Okay, basically what it means is that we are at a standstill. There is no service delivery. There is nothing happening everywhere across Gauteng because we do not really have the executive, we do not have the leaders, we don't have people that we can hold accountable. You go to hospitals, as I said, you can't do anything about it. You go to Home Affairs, you go to the clinics, you go any public institution, it's a health hazard, there is chaos, long queues, staff attitude, clinics, there's no medication. So you actually feel like you can't do anything right now except, for instance, the very social development department that we wanted to meet with, the HOD was very, very dodgy because he said, I can't really meet with you guys because I will be, saying what I think, not what the MEC, who is not yet appointed at that time. And then we said, but no, at the moment, the NGOs are not paid, and these people are actually working with the vulnerable. They're assisting those who cannot assist themselves. We cannot wait for the MEC. Some things, you know what, you just need to be human about it. It's not about waiting for someone to tell you to do something that you could have done. And, it's not like wasteful expenditure or, fruitless expense. It was so disheartening, to be honest, when you want to meet, because the other thing the HOD was saying, you guys always go to newspapers and write things about us without consultation. And we're saying we're consulting right now with you, want to meet with you. There's issues that have been raised. But yeah, to date, we haven't met with anyone. And we are pushing. We are pushing because we continue to receive issues and concerns from South Africans. Because remember, these people voted us in. Now they want us to work for them. They want us to represent them. They want to see progress. And we really want to make sure that they do get justice. They do get service delivery. Housing is a problem. Any department of government, be it national, be it provincial, there are issues. 30 years of mismanagement, but we're here now. As my colleague rightfully said, that we are here at weird times where there's coalitions and all of that. We'll see how it works, but we will be there. We will be the watchdog. We will advocate for the masses. We will make sure it's back to basics in Gauteng. So Gauteng will be fixed, because as ActionSA, we believe that there's nothing else that we can do. I mean, imagine you're an MPL, an MP, a minister. You don't go to Chris Anipara. Your kids go to private schools, private hospitals. Where are they going to reside, those people? They are going to reside in South Africa. So if we don't make sure that we fix our own country for all our children, not only selective children, all our children, then it means the day we die, our kids are in danger, basically. And what type of children are we raising? So there's already that, disenfranchisement, to say these are the poor, these are the rich, these are the middle class. We need to do away with those things eventually. We really need to get to basics, make sure that basic needs, the very same surcharge of 200, we're pushing it at council level as ActionSA. We actually driving that petition that my colleague was talking about. We are actually doing a lot to make sure that we can actually save South Africans. This is corruption at its best. That corruption at its best, maladministration at its best. We are here now, and my hope is that all of us, it doesn't matter which part you come from, we're going to just put our heads together and fix Gauteng. End of story, for our own sake.
Absolutely. Ayanda, how cold is it outside the GNU? How frustrating is it to work in this provincial government without being inside the GNU?
I don't think it's cold at all. I think it gives us a lot of freedom to vote on merit and with our conscience. And that's not to say that we'll never have issues with which we agree with the GPU in the province. But we're not restricted because of positions or trying to placate the puppet master or trying to keep peace with everybody because now we're part of this pact. We can really choose and vote depending on what the matter is on the table. We will then assess it as Build One South Africa and ask what's in the best interest of those who are in Gauteng. And therefore we will choose. If we are of the view, for example, our colleagues in the Democratic Alliance had said because they didn't receive any of the key positions they wanted in the executive, that there were rumors of whether or not they were going to call for the Premier's head, or they were going to call for a vote of no confidence, and we refused. We said we're not going to do that for political reasons. We're not going to go out there and call for any motion based on hurt feelings or grudges. We will vote based on if the Premier does something that we find is wanting in this administration, we will vote with our conscience and vote him out or support him based on what's at the forefront. We are free to agree with any of the political parties. We are free to engage with ActionSA. We are free to engage with those within the GPU and externally. And I think it's very liberating because it puts us in a position where we can really exercise our mandate, right? South Africans put us in this position because they wanted us to be their voice in the province and not to echo the sentiments of whoever is the loudest voice in the GPU. So it's not cold at all. I think it's very liberating. It's very freeing. And it really helps us to do exactly what we said we were going to do on the campaign trail without any inhibition. It does actually call for us to also have a level of collegiality, pardon me, because we have to understand that we have colleagues who, if we want to pass a bill, which we intend doing so, we then need their support. So we have to be collegial and make sure that we are not antagonistic for the sake of antagonism or fighting for the sake of wanting to fight. We are going to come into the space with a level-headedness, with maturity, with a knowing that we're here to serve the people of Gauteng and whatever is in their best interest. So not cold at all, actually really liberating and freeing.
Not cold at all. Thank you both to you honourable members for joining us this evening. Really looking forward to seeing some of the work that you're also going to be doing once the work actually gets to start. Well, that's both Ayanda Allie from Build One South Africa as well as Emma Moore from ActionSA.